In this battle, we are facing KingSayquan, and this is in fact one of the best players in the scene, actually number 4 in the leaderboard. So this is of course going to be a challenge, and just like a lot of higher level players, he actually has team preview off. So I just decided to leave with my Mandibuzz, because Mandibuzz has defog. So in case he has like an entry hazard Pokemon like Shuckle, I can just go for a defog. And if it's a bad matchup like toxapex right here, I can always just U-turn out and get into a favorable matchup. So anyways though, in this specific battle, we are running a wall turn based team, which basically means that I'm running Heliolisk and Scizor with U-turn and Volt Switch respectively, so that way I can get a lot of good synergy. So anyways, I'm thinking he's probably gonna go for a toxic, so I mean toxapex would basically be an excellent switch in because it's immune. Although at the same time, I decided to go into Heliolisk because in case he went for Scald, this would be great. And even if he goes for toxic, it wouldn't be too bad because it would be worth the trade-off being able to get another Volt Switch off, because then I could start abusing the synergy of Volt Turn. So anyways, here he goes for a Scald, which is perfect because with our dry skin ability we are immune to that, so that's great. So I go for a Volt Switch of course, because I do want to try and get some momentum going. So I know he's not going to try staying in, so he goes into his Cradily, which is actually the first time I've ever seen anybody use it in the PvP scene. I'd say it is an interesting Pokemon, and I definitely might consider trying it out myself down the line, because it does look like it can probably pull off some interesting things. And I do like the typing too. Rock and Grass actually, in my opinion, synergizes pretty good. So anyways, here I'm going to go into Scizor because partly I can pressure him out with Bullet Punch and Super Power, and if he switches out, I'll just go for a U-turn, which is kind of predictable, as he probably will go into toxapex. I could even knock off 2 at that, but it's kind of just up to what I think the opponent's going to do. And here I'm expecting a switch, which is why I go for the U-turn, and that's exactly what he decides to do. In fact, he goes into the toxapex, so I kind of know that he's going to be using toxapex and relying on it to check Scizor. So next time if I want to, I could also just go for a knockoff, but because we got the U-turn, we're going to be able to bring back Heliolisk. Now the only unfortunate part of this strategy is a Pokemon like Toxapex with Regenerator is basically kind of immune to the effects of Volt Turn, because he's going to regenerate all the HP back up every time he switches out, although the other Pokemon like Cradily will suffer. And that's going to be good because I can get a lot of stuff going. So anyways, I consider going for a T-Bolt in case he tries to stay in, and actually this time he does stay in, but that's fine because Volt Switch does massive damage. So now I kind of gotta figure out who I want to go into, and I'm expecting a Toxic. It's really unlikely he's gonna go for a Scald on Heliolisk after that not working before. So I figured that if he goes for a Toxic, Scizor should get some free HP right here, and he does actually go for a Toxic Spikes, which was not what I was expecting, but that's like the slightest of my problems, because the only Pokemon that could probably be affected by that is Heliolisk, and I can just go into Mandibuzz to defog the Toxic Spikes, or I can even go into Toxapex, which will be able to come in really easily on his Toxapex, so I can basically remove those spikes. And then if I need to, I have Florges with the aromatherapy utility, so that way I can basically cancel out all the status conditions. So here he goes into his Cradily, and I decided to just bring Toxapex in because I want to get rid of those toxic spikes as early on as I can, and that's great because we are successful with that. And then he goes for a Leech Seed, probably not a bad play because he wants to get some recovery on that Cradily, which has been taking some damage. So now I decide to go back into Scizor. He actually withdraws, which is a bit surprising, but it makes sense because he probably wants to get HP back on his Toxapex. And of course, he is the number 4 ranked player right now, so it makes sense that he has Regenerator, and he's definitely skillfully trying to make use of it. So here I bring back Scizor, and I gotta decide if I want to go for a U-turn or a knockoff, but I decided to hit him with the knockoff because I'm willing to take the chance of being burnt, because I can just go into Florges and get aromatherapy off, and also because I know I'm going to do big damage with a knockoff, and that's probably going to force out a switch if this guy is smart. So he goes for a Scald. I'm not sure why this animation is so long, but luckily we don't get burnt. And Scizor doesn't have terrible special defense. And actually, one thing I looked up today is that's crazy. The Mega form of Scizor actually has like 100 base special defense, so it's actually really bulky. Not only just physically, but specially too. So anyways, here he goes for Cradily. I can only really go for knockoff because of my choice band, but that does really big damage. So I mean, I'm a bit tempted to follow up with another knockoff, but I feel like this guy's probably going to try switching out. And, you know, if he doesn't, then it's fine, because Heliolisk can't probably finish him off at this point because he's just so low in HP. So, contrary to what I was expecting, he actually stays in and just goes for a Stud Rock. So it would have actually benefited me more if I just went for another knockoff. Although, I mean, I was thinking if he brought back Toxapex, and he would just be able to get a lot of HP back. So, you know, I was willing to make the trade-off here. So anyways, now I gotta figure out what I want to do. I don't want to go for Surf in case he has Storm Drain, because I'm pretty sure Cradily can get that ability. So I decided to go for Hyper Voice, and of course it's going to be a resisted attack because of his rock typing, although that's like the strongest move I can fire out. And if he goes into something that's like Dragon type, then it's going to take big damage right there. So now he goes into his Toxapex, and unfortunately I'm locked into Hyper Voice, although this is still not the worst matchup, because I mean, I can still, you know, do big damage, and he can't really hurt me too much other than with Toxic Spikes. But, you know, anyways, I decided to just go into my my Mandibuzz here, because I want to defog the Stud Rocks and basically remove the effects that his Cradily had. So, you know, unfortunately we take some big damage from the Stud Rocks because, you know, of course we have the flying typing, so it's not, you know, too great. But he ends up switching into Dragapult, I guess, expecting me to go for a Hyper Voice. I'm not too sure. It makes sense actually, because he wants to get some more Regenerator HP, so that is actually really smart, and once again shows his class up here at the top level. So here he goes for a U-turn. I mean, I know for sure that he is gonna want to switch out, and I'm lucky that I went to Mandibuzz here instead of staying in, because that basically ensured that he didn't get any free attacks off with his Dragapult, and that also ensured that I got a free defog. So the Stud Rocks are no longer going to be an issue. And now, of course, I'm going to follow up with a U-turn. Now, the only unfortunate thing is his Toxapex is back in really good condition. Although, I mean, we took out the Cradily, so we definitely made some progress, and we can whittle this down with Heliolisk and my strong electric type attacks. So anyways, here comes Heliolisk. I'm kind of expecting a Toxic, although, you know, he could go for Toxic Spikes or even Scald, and he goes for Toxic Spikes, which I guess is pretty smart, because, I mean, Mandibuzz really can't do anything to Toxapex, so, you know, it's not the worst play. And I decided to go for a wall switch, because, you know, if he doesn't switch out, then I basically get my own Toxapex in, and if he does switch out, then I can just get a good matchup and be fine. So here I bring out my Toxapex just to invalidate his Toxic Spikes, and that's great because we are successful at that. But you'll see that he goes for a Scald here. I guess he knew I was probably going to try switching out, and unfortunately here we have some pretty bad luck, because we end up getting the burn, and that actually will cost us in this game, because, you know, Toxapex really relies on recovery and, you know, just like trying to maintain as much HP as it can. So this is going to be a pretty bad blow, but, you know, it's not the worst thing that can happen. I'd rather get a burn on Toxapex than get a burn on Scizor, so I can't really complain. But it is still unfortunate nonetheless, because I don't know if it was really worth the trade-off of getting Toxic Spikes off in return of getting the burn. But anyways, here I decided to go back into Heliolisk in case he tries to follow up with another Scald, and he actually goes into his Gengar, which was kind of unexpected. Although, you know, unfortunately for me, Heliolisk tops out at 109 base speed, while Gengar has 110 base speed, I'm pretty sure, or 150, and I actually don't really remember. I think it's 110. And one thing I know for sure is that this Gengar is going to outspeed, and based on how useful Heliolisk is against this guy's team, I don't want to take any excess damage in it. And now, of course, I have Florges with Wish, where I can actually just pivot back into it and get my HP back up if I really needed to. But, you know, that's not ideal, especially because, like I said, Heliolisk is going to be key for me winning this game. So anyways, you know, now I decide to switch out here, because, like I said, Gengar isn't a huge issue for me, because, I mean, I have Mandibuzz that can do big damage. I have Gengar, I have Charizard that can, you know, do big damage. I have Scizor with Bullet Punch that can do big damage. Florges actually does not come in too easily, although I'm pretty sure I can take a Sludge Bomb from the pre-Mega Evolution form. And then Toxapex, of course, can hit him with Scald and probably shrug off most of his hits unless he has like, you know, any setup moves. So, you know, this once again isn't a huge issue, and you know, I don't need to sacrifice my Heliolisk or any HP on my Heliolisk in order to deal with this. So I decided to go into my toxapex here, partly because I mean it's not going to be too useful to this game too with the burn, so it can't really effectively be a physical wall, and also because I mean toxapex resists sludge bombs, so in case he goes for that, which he probably will, because you know his ghost type attacks won't affect Heliolisk, then I won't take big damage on my toxapex. So anyways, here, as you can see, he Mega Walls his Gengar, and this is actually the first time I've also seen Mega Gengar, which is kind of crazy because a lot of people like to use Ubers, and Mega Gengar is a really good Uber Pokemon with Shadow Tag, because I mean once it traps the Pokemon in, you're kind of done for. So unfortunately here he gets the special defense drop, and in conjunction with the burn, that is going to be really bad for our toxapex, because you know I don't think I'm going to be able to take another hit. And you might think, why don't you switch out? Well, like I said, Mega Gengar has Shadow Tag, so that is impossible. And that's also a reason why it's banned, because I mean with Shadow Tag it is kind of an uncompetitive ability, because switching is a big aspect of PvP battles, and Shadow Tag kind of eliminates that. But you know, now that we're in the battle, we have to work with it, and you know, I have to let toxapex die here. Actually, not the worst thing to happen though, because I mean toxapex really isn't as necessary for this game. Now of course the poison typing does help, so I can cancel out his toxic spikes, although I do have Mandibuzz and Defog for that. And you know, like toxic damage isn't going to be the worst problem for my team. So I go into Charizard here, and the good thing is the Stout Rocks are no longer there, because that would be a pretty big conflict. So Charizard comes out, and I'm confident that I can probably take a Shadow Ball here, and I decided to go for a Dragon Dance, because the way I see it, I'll be able to outspeed him next turn. I should be able to take a hit, and then I can one-shot him with Flare Blitz or Dragon Claw. So anyways, he actually goes into Toxapex here, which is more than perfect. I mean, actually, I want to say that was the best play, because I mean, if I went for Earthquake, I probably would go for Earthquake on Mega Gengar, because it doesn't have the immunity due to not having Levitate and having Shadow Tag instead. So I would probably go for Earthquake, and if he went into Toxapex, he would take some pretty big damage since it's a super effective attack. Although the only unfortunate part of Earthquake is it doesn't get the Tough Claws boost, because it isn't a contact move. But anyways, here we do successfully land it, and it does huge damage, almost taking out the Toxapex, although unfortunately it's not enough. And then he falls up with a Scald, which is gonna do nothing. Like, this is, you know, the least of my problems right here. Not at all a conflict. And I do have to say I do enjoy Mega Charizard for that. Like, it can basically shut down Toxapex. So Toxapex just, it can't get the burn off. I mean, the only thing you can rely on is toxic damage, and by then you can boost and then probably two-shot it, so you're good. So anyways, here I know this guy's gonna switch out, because he's gonna try and make use of Regenerator, and I go for a Dragon Claw, because that's my most reliable hard-hitting move without recoil. And it's great that I do, because he pulls out his Swellow and is knocked out, so you know, Swellow is no longer going to be an issue. So now he brings out his Dragapult, and you know, it is tempting to stay in, because I know I'm going to outspeed him, because you know, Charizard at +1 is obviously going to be faster. Although at the same time, I actually do not know if this guy has a Focus Sash or not, because if he does have a Focus Sash and I attack, then I'll lose my Charizard, and you know, that's not going to be good. Now of course, if he had like a Life Orb or a Choice Item, then that would be a free KO, although I can't actually ensure that. So based on, you know, the risk, it's simply not worth it, because I mean, I do have Mandibuzz that can come in on Dragapult and, you know, really check it with foul play, and then I also have Scizor that can take its hits defensively and fire off a Bullet Punch that will do super high damage, and Florges too can probably come in on a Phantom Force and then one shot with Moonblast. So it's not like I'm forced here to have to go for a Dragon Claw, although it is tempting, because if I get through this Dragapult and it doesn't have a Focus Sash, then the rest of his team is going to get swept by this Charizard. Although, you know, instead I decide it's not worth the risk, and I decide to go into my Mandibuzz, because, you know, Mandibuzz of course is really physically bulky, so it's going to be able to shrug off this Dragon Darts without much conflict. And, you know, of course I'm going to force him out into a switch with my foul play. So it's gonna be a pretty good matchup right here. So here he goes for a Dragon Darts. It's gonna do actually pretty good damage, but it's not that much. And I do have to say, I like Mandibuzz for that. It is really bulky. That bulk is really useful. So here I decided to go for a Roost just to get my Mandibuzz at good health. He goes for a U-turn, which actually does some good damage too at that. And KingSayquan here switches out into his Toxapex, and you know that's not a bad thing for me, but it's also not great because now he gets some regenerator HP up, but also it's not too bad because you know now I can obviously switch in to one of my many checks to Toxapex. I mean, I have Heliolisk, I have Charizard that could probably come in now. I have a lot of Pokemon, so this is really the least of my problems. But anyways, I decided to go into Heliolisk here because I mean, so far I kind of figured out that this guy doesn't really have any ground types. So Wall Switch basically is a free attack that I can just spam, and I know it's gonna do enough to take care of this Toxapex here because he's really low in HP. And the good thing is I did go into Toxapex here instead of Charizard because he went for a Scald. So because of Toxapex's or Heliolisk ability, I'm not affected, and he actually decides to sacrifice his Toxapex here. Probably not a bad play because you know he needs momentum in this battle. So we do take it out, and that's great. And then I decide to go into Mandibuzz because ideally what I want to do here is bait out his Mega Gengar, because one thing I know for sure is that his Mega Gengar will be a problem to my team. It's going to be able to do big damage, and I can't ensure that Charizard can survive a Shadow Ball because it has huge special attack. Heliolisk does not want to have to do any business with that Gengar, and I mean Scizor could come in, but you know, even if I take the Mega Gengar down, I do have a lot of other Pokemon I still have to deal with it, like his Dragapult. So I mean I need to be pretty decisive here, but I'm willing to sacrifice the Mandibuzz because you know I have a lot of Pokemon that definitely can take out the Dragapult, and Gengar is one that's more in question because it hits incredibly hard, especially defensively, and my team is more physically defensive. So anyways, here I decided to go for a foul play. It's probably not going to one-shot because it's based on the attack stat, but it's going to do big damage nonetheless because Gengar doesn't have any defense. And he actually is running Dazzling Gleam. I will have to say it is a bit surprising, but it does really big damage right there. So unfortunately that means that we are going to lose our Mandibuzz here, and I can't switch out because he does have his ability of Shadow Tag. So that basically means I'm forced to stay in, and I did show that off right there. So here I decide to just follow up with another foul play. It's unlikely that he's gonna miss, but you know, worst case, in case something crazy happens, you know, that's guaranteed to land. You know, there's no point going for a U-turn or anything else. So you know, that's that. So anyways, one thing that surprises me is that he actually takes a lot of time here to process what he's gonna do. I'm not sure why this is such a hard decision because you know I can't really switch out. He's gonna outspeed me and probably knock me out with one more hit. So I don't know what's taking so much excess time, but you know I can't really complain. But that's partly why I feel it's uncompetitive, or it is officially considered uncompetitive, which is why it's banned. Because I mean there's not much I can do here. I just have to accept it. So there's not really that many mind games that go into it, if that makes sense. So anyways, Mandibuzz does go down here to the Dazzling Gleam, although I will say it did contribute quite a lot, especially keeping away those entry hazards and also coming in on Dragapult and forcing it out many times. So now I go into Scizor because I mean I know for sure that I can Bullet Punch for free because his Toxapex is downed, and he doesn't really have an answer to this. So of course I go for the Bullet Punch here, and that's definitely the best play. Like nothing else would be that smart here, and it is going to be enough to finish off the Mega Gengar, which is great because that is actually a really scary Mega Pokemon. So taking care of that is going to go a long way for me. So you know, that's that. Now he goes into his Dragapult, and you know that's actually pretty good for me because I can hit him really hard with a Bullet Punch, and I can probably take his hardest hitting attack, which is his Phantom Force, because his Dragon Darts are resisted. So here he goes for a Phantom Force, and I do consider switching out because I mean I could go into Heliolisk with its part normal typing and be immune, although I mean that's not really too smart because I'm not too confident that T-Ball would actually do enough damage to finish him off, and even then I would probably still have to take a Dragon Dart before I'd be able to sufficiently land it. So here I just go for a Bullet Punch. He goes for a Phantom Force. It's going to do some pretty good damage, although it's not going to take care of the Scizor because I do have physical bulk. So I'm going to follow up with another bullet punch, because I mean, if he stays in, it's gonna take care of the Dragapult, and if he switches out, then I can always just switch out and, you know, get Scizor back in later. So anyways, he stays in, Dragapult goes down, and now he has to send out his final Pokemon, which is Mimikyu. And this was actually really scary because Mimikyu can actually sweep if you're not careful. Mandibuzz is down, so it can't really come in, and it wouldn't really be able to come in anyways because it's going to take super effective damage from Play Rough. Although, based on the nature of my team, I mean, I have Mega Charizard X, I have Scizor, I have Florges, so I don't think that this guy will be able to sweep. Although, you know, it could happen if he gets critical hits and now I start missing attacks. So, you know, you got to be careful with that type of stuff. So anyways, here he goes for the Swords Dance, the best play you could probably make here, because, you know, this is the final stand. He is on a hill with his sword and he must defend it with his life. So that's the best thing he can do here. He goes for the Shadow Sneak. Unfortunately, it's going to be able to take out my Scizor, and that's too bad. Although he does reveal that he has Life Orb right here. So, you know, that's great because that means he doesn't have a Focus Sash, and therefore that means that my Charizard will be able to come in on this Mimikyu, and I will probably be able to finish him off with a Flare Blitz, because I know for sure his Shadow Sneak will not one-shot this Charizard, because Charizard has really high, or not really high, but just decently high physical bulk. So right here I go for the Flare Blitz, and it is enough to take care of the Mimikyu. So that right there was an excellent game. I have to say, I really enjoyed that battle with KingSayquan.